Few rides are as classic as the bumper cars. The modern rides we know today can trace their roots to the early 1900s. At the time, a new type of ride was sweeping the amusement scene, the witching waves. This ride used an undulating metal floor to propel rider cars along waves around the ride track. Riders could control their car and crash into other riders. The ride has been covered in its own episode in the past if you'd like to learn more about it. One of the most well-known installations of the witching waves was at a park in Coney Island, New York. This early idea for a ride where riders could control their own ride and crash into others was crude. The cars would often get stuck and featured no bumpers, so crashes could injure riders and damage cars. Again, I've made a whole video on this ride type. In the early 1920s, a father and son would iterate on the design of this Witching Waves ride with a new electrified design. Max and Harold Storer filed a patent for a new ride that they would call the Dodgem on December 7, 1920. They would shortly after form a new company, the Dodgem Corporation, to create this ride. Their first ride would be sold to a seaside amusement park near Salisbury Beach, Massachusetts. This ride featured cars similar to what was found on the Witching Waves. However, unlike the Witching Waves, this ride featured an electric motor built into the cars that drove a single tire underneath the front of the car. This motor was powered by an electrified grid placed on the ceiling of the ride. On each car, a pole with a bare electrical contact extended up to the ceiling, along with a contactor on the bare metal floor. This gave each car power for the ride cycle and would allow for the operator to stop the whole ride by removing power. This design also placed all dangerous bare electrical contacts well above and below the riders. This design has endured into the modern era and is an iconic element of these rides. The ride was intended for you to dodge other riders rather than to intentionally bump them. However, bumpers were still added on the very first ride model so that the cars could withstand many hits. The cars featured a very simple steering wheel that was not very good for fine control of the ride, leading to even more crashing. This was apparently an intentional design element on these early rides. Even the first example of Dodgems featured the ability for riders to reverse their cars by spinning the wheel 180 degrees, causing the drive wheel to face backwards. This deceptively simple design, which often saw sparks go flying around the roof as cars crashed into and bounced off each other, has endured to this day. In the late 1920s, another company, Loose, based out of Philadelphia, produced their own version of the ride with a few differences from the Dodgem model. The Loose version of the ride featured slightly more modern-looking cars, as well as coming with a divider in the middle of the ride layout, encouraging circular driving, though both companies would eventually produce versions with and without dividers. Loose's version was also called the Auto Scooter. However, this ride commonly became known as the bumper cars. These rides would explode in popularity and would become a staple of any amusement park through the 1960s. In this time, the two companies would fiercely compete and introduce new innovations that elevated what this ride type could be. In 1959, Loose would introduce the first fiberglass bumper car. These had the advantage of being lighter and looking sleeker. Eventually, this would become the de facto material for bumper car bodies. Loose would also get permission from Chevrolet around that time to use the Corvette body design and logo on their rides, increasing their appeal. In 1961, the Dodgem Corporation was sold, and in 1970, its new owners stopped producing rides. Loose continued making the auto scooters up until 1994, when they themselves also went bankrupt, leaving the market completely open to new manufacturers. Due to the very nature of this ride, the cars experience a lot of wear and tear. Accordingly, a lot of the rides from this golden era of the ride type have now been removed. One great surviving example of the Loose auto scooter that still operates is at the legendary Knoebels Park in Pennsylvania. This ride features all-metal cars likely from around the 1940s and runs at a much higher speed than most modern bumper cars. The ride has a great classic feel and is quite thrilling even today. Many bumper cars that exist today feature their original structures from Dodgem or Loose, but cars from another new manufacturer, as the cars likely became too damaged to continue to repair. This problem and the lack of the ride's original manufacturers has led to many other ride manufacturers creating their own take on the ride, many of which are still in production today. One of the most well-known of these manufacturers is the Ohio-based Majestic. Known for creating highly portable rides, Majestic's take on the ride model features highly detailed fiberglass cars. These can be placed on existing rides from other manufacturers, or Majestic can provide their own ride building. They offer a highly portable design that can allow for a large bumper car ride to be transported on just one trailer. This has made this version of the ride highly popular with traveling shows. In fact, in the US, this is by far the most popular version of the traveling bumper car. Many other manufacturers such as Fabry, Bazarton, and Reverchon have also produced their own version of the bumper car. Some manufacturers have innovated on the original ride experience. The company Amusement Products LLC, among a few others, has created a ride commonly known as the Spin Zone. These are small-scale versions of bumper cars aimed at FECs and smaller parks. These are battery-powered cars that usually run in small areas with only a few cars present. These cars often have special features like automated spinning if they are hit at a certain point on the car. Some versions of the ride have been produced with riders sitting inside of a gyroscope that can flip a rider upside down when they're hit. This type of ride has proven to be very popular due to its relatively high thrill packed into a small space and at a low price. Other innovations include rides like the Kitty Dodgem, which are small-scale versions of the original design aimed at children too small to ride the full-size version, as well as rides with different forms of propulsion. As we have discussed, nearly all bumper cars are electric, but while most get power from the roof and floor, a few rides have been developed that only get power from the floor, eliminating the need for a roof structure. Some rides have also been produced that use batteries to power the car, allowing them to run on any surface but requiring them to be recharged after some use. These have become popular for multi-use spaces, such as on cruise ships that want to have a bumper car type ride, but also want to use that same space for other activities. Bumper cars, dodgems, or auto scooters remain an amusement park classic that is sure to delight riders of all demographics for many years to come. Have you had the chance to ride an example of this iconic ride? If not, there's examples at nearly every amusement park and fair in the world. As always, if we missed anything or got something incorrect, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching this episode of Flat Ride Friday, and we'll see you next week.